Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you so much for your patience as well. Welcome to the private sector meeting for the National Consultations on the CARICOM Single Market and Economy Implementation Arrangements and Procedures. At this time, please pay attention to the safety briefing, which will be done by Ms. Andrea Jofield.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to Shaw Park Complex. You are presently seated in the second floor fixed seating meeting room. The washrooms are located to the rear of the room, accessible by the door to your immediate right at the front of the seated area. The emergency exit is located to the immediate left on the outside of the room. Should an emergency occur, an alarm will sound. At the sound of the alarm, please proceed in a single orderly file manner via the emergency exit to the muster point. The muster point is nearest to your location, is situated at the western end of the car park and is labeled muster point. Further instructions will be given at the muster point. Thank you and welcome to Shaw Park Cultural Complex.
Of Trinidad and Tobago, followed by the opening prayer by Ms. Avian Parks. Ms. Parks.
Good afternoon. Kindly remain standing. Let us pray. Eternal and Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day. Father, we thank you for life. We thank you for health. We thank you for strength, dear God. Father, we thank you for wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. We thank you for this opportunity this day, O God, to discuss matters of regional integration. Lord, as we embark on another session, we commit it to you. We pray for your guidance, Lord. We pray, O God, that everything will work and operate in order, Lord God. We pray that you will touch every aspect of this session, that there will be clarity, that everything, O God, said and done today will be beneficial to all. Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. His Excellency Wayne McCook, Assistant Secretary General, Caribbean Community. Her Excellency Jennifer Marchand, Ambassador of Trinidad and Tobago to the Caribbean Community. Mrs. Denise Toby Quashie, Chief Administrator. Ms. Joanne Brooks, Head CSME Unit and CSME Focal Point for Trinidad and Tobago. Stakeholders, online viewers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. Good afternoon again. Good afternoon. Thank you. I am Davia Chambers, and it is my pleasure to guide you through this afternoon's program. Welcome once again to this important private stakeholder consultation on the CARICOM single market and economy. This afternoon, we gather to discuss the future of regional integration and economic collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me at this time to invite to the lectern Chief Administrator of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mrs. Denise Toby-Quashie, to deliver the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. His Excellency Wayne McCook, Assistant Secretary General, Caribbean Community, and other members of the CARICOM Secretariat. Her Excellency Jennifer Marshall, Ambassador of Trinidad and Tobago to the Caribbean Community, Ms. Joanne Brooks, Head CSME Unit and CSME Focal Point, and other persons in the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, members of the local organizing committee, stakeholders, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me start by apologizing for the absence of the Chief Secretary this afternoon, who has expressed his delight with spending the morning in these consultations, but who had to attend to other urgent matters of state. It is a privilege to address you today as we continue this important dialogue on the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME. This consultation is critical as it provides an avenue for you, our stakeholders, business owners, industry leaders, and professionals to share your insight on how Tobago can maximize the benefits of regional integration. CSME is not just a policy. It's about people. It's about ensuring that Tobago's businesses, entrepreneurs, and workers are well positioned to thrive in a competitive regional market. The free movement of goods and services and people presents opportunities, but it also requires strategic planning and institutional support to ensure that Tobago can compete effectively. Now, we all know that Tobagonians don't just go along with anything because someone says so. We like to see the thing work first before we fully commit to it. And that's why today's consultation is so important. Because if CSME is going to work for us, we need to make sure it aligns with the realities of doing business in Tobago. Whether you're selling fish by the jetty or exporting craft overseas, you need to know how this integration will benefit you. Ladies and gentlemen, regional integration must be intentional. Our businesses must be equipped with the knowledge and resources to navigate this evolving economic landscape. This means investing in training, fostering entrepreneurship, and leveraging technology to enhance our competitiveness. It also requires strong collaboration between the public and private sectors to ensure that policy decision translates into real economic opportunities for Tobago business community. As Chief Administrator of the Tobago House of Assembly, I want to assure you that the Tobago House of Assembly is committed to working alongside you to create an enabling environment where businesses can grow, workers can access new opportunities, and Tobago can strengthen its position in the regional economy. We understand that success in the CSME requires more than just policy alignment. It requires active participation, strategic partnership, and a clear vision for our future. Let's be honest, Tobago has always punched above its weight. We are small but mighty, and when we put our minds to something, we make it happen. Just ask anyone who has ever tried to beat us in a goat race. The same spirit of determination and excellence must drive our approach to CSME. Indeed, the consultations is a chance for us to identify the challenges that hinder Tobago's full participation in the regional economy and to work collectively towards solutions. I encourage you to share experiences, voice your concerns, and offer recommendations so that we can shape policies that truly reflect the needs and aspirations of our people. Let us move forward with a shared commitment to positioning Tobago as a leader in economic innovation and enterprise within CARICOM. The decisions we make today will shape our island's future, and with the right approach, we can ensure that Tobago is not just a participant in regional integration, but a key driver, a key player in its success. With these few words, I want to welcome you to the consultations this afternoon, and I thank you.
Thank you, Chief Administrator, Mrs. Toby Kwashi. Ladies and gentlemen, delivering the opening remarks now is Her Excellency Jennifer Marchand, Trinidad and Tobago's Ambassador to CARICOM. Please welcome her to the lectern.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. His Excellency Wayne McCook, Assistant Secretary General, Caribbean Community, Mrs. Denise Toby Kwashi, Chief Administrator, Ms. Joanne Brooks, Head CSME Unit and CSME Focal Point for Trinidad and Tobago, stakeholders present this afternoon, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. These consultations with the private sector are very significant because the private sector plays an extremely important role on matters relevant to the CARICOM single market. The single market is a critical step in the growth of our Caribbean society because it will certainly advance our economic integration, stimulating sustainable growth, jobs and social development in all our countries. We recognize, however, that we need to build on the single market, and so we have some distance to go. But the task at hand is so vital to the viability of our countries in this fiercely competitive global arena that we must make that extra effort towards this end. The single market is of utmost importance to Trinidad and Tobago because we recognize that our survival depends on our growing togetherness in the community. The world has always been a harsh place for the small and vulnerable, and it is even more so now in the current turbulent geopolitical environment, as the intensified global competition for markets and investment increases the threat of marginalization for us. As we can see, the developed countries continue to pay particular attention to creating and improving their advantages, enlarging their markets, efficiency, and production capacity as they further consolidate their lead in the race for development and succeed in improving their societies and economies. Ladies and gentlemen, we need, as a matter of urgency, the fullest possible flowering of the CSME, which will develop and sustain the inner economic dynamism that we need. We need a region where our entrepreneurs, big and small, have the conditions for the phenomenal growth and expansion to match those at the global level and for which they have already proven their capability. We need to sustain a community of states with principles and norms based on integrity, transparency, accountability, and the rule of law, where the welfare of the people is the preeminent concern, where the people themselves are secure and prosperous, and where the talent does not drain away to apparently greener pastures, but where the young remain and find the opportunity for fulfillment and make the future of the region more assured. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your remarks. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome His Excellency Wayne McCook, Assistant Secretary General, Caribbean Community, to bring remarks.
Thank you very much. Chief Administrator, I want on behalf of our team to thank you and the Chief Secretary of the Tobago administration and the people and the administration of Tobago for the excellent hospitality extended to us and the opportunity for the interactions that we have shared so fruitfully all day. And I want to thank Ambassador Marchand and the team from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. I just quickly wish to frame our conversation and prepare to hear from you as business persons what can be done to make the CSME work better for you. And the first question is, why do we have a CSME? We have a CSME because we have a neighborhood of shared values, shared opportunity, and shared objectives. The Caribbean community brings together in a single geographical space small countries that, pulling together, are able to do things that they are not able to do sufficiently at the individual level. So the single market gives a Tobagonian business an extended opportunity to sell and produce for markets of millions across the region under preferred conditions. How do we do this? We do this by removing barriers and building bridges. Removing barriers that impede entry into other markets and build bridges to make it easier for us to stay in Tobago and sell a product in Westmoreland in Jamaica. What do we now have to do? We have to make it the free movements within the single market truly free. We need to address the challenges in the trade in goods regime. We need to remove barriers to entry for goods, and we need to fulfill the commitment to full free movement that is now set for implementation on the 1st of June. I want to therefore ask that we consider those questions. What can we do as a community to make the CSME work better for our businesses? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get right into the presentations. Firstly, Mr. Leo Preville, Director, CARICOM Single Market and Trade Unit, will highlight the CSME implementation.
Thank you very much. Protocol having already been established, I will be absolutely brief because it's about a consultation. So we'd want to hear from you. Just to remind ourselves, the CSM is about the free movement arrangements that Mr. McCook would have spoken about, Ambassador McCook, goods, services, capital, free movement of persons to supply their services, and of course the right to establish businesses on a basis that is non-discriminatory. So this is really the essence of what the CSM is about. There are a few accompanying measures that we need to pay attention to. There is work on industrial policy, so we have a coherent approach to industrial policy development. There is a CARICOM 2030 draft industrial policy that is currently being fashioned, and I urge the private sector of Trinidad and Tobago, in Tobago in particular, to have a look at that 2030 industrial policy, so that you have an input into what it is that is approved by the Council for Trade and Economic Development very soon. Also, because Tobago in particular is a services-based economy, you would have particular interest in services. So quickly, we have right now developed and we are developing arrangements for under a services action strategy, if you want to call it that, a regional services sector strategy. There are a few critical services areas that have been prioritized. Just to give you a sense of what they are, because you are in a services area in Tobago. We have ICT services as one of the priority areas, professional services, trade in education services, tourism services, and I saw a cruise ship in port earlier this morning, health and wellness services, which could be tied to tourism services, cultural services, of course, and entertainment services, sporting services, and the single registration of professionals, which is a means to allow professional service providers to move seamlessly in the single space that you would have heard spoken about. And of those, that universe, small universe of services that have been prioritized, the Council for Trade and Economic Development, they have identified 4 critical services, prioritized them. These are professional services, postal and courier services, tourism services, and the single registration of professionals. So this would be of direct interest to the private sector, the Chamber of Commerce of Tobago. With respect to movements that would support services, movement of capital, there is free movement of capital with some restrictions in member states that still have exchange control regimes. Work is being done in developing a macroeconomic environment to support our services and goods infrastructure. So we have work being done to strengthen our financial sector cooperation, credit reporting, to allow business persons to move from one country to the other, and have, because there is a strong credit reporting infrastructure in place, your sector for their growth and development strategy. You would perhaps recognize that we have been doing work on agriculture. That's an important area. We have the 25 by 25 agricultural food, nutrition, and food security strategy. It has been extended, as was being done, and has been done on that particular area or that particular sector. And for Tobago, of course, transportation will be important to you. So we have the multilateral air services agreement, which has already been, which is in force right now. And your very own minister responsible for foreign affairs and CARICOM affairs is chairing a subcommittee which is looking into the removal of barriers to trade, as well as advancing work with respect to maritime transportation. So in a nutshell, this is where we are, and I would like to take the questions, and the team here would like to take questions from you. You are the ones who are important today. We want to hear from you, your experiences, your concerns, Thank you very much.
And she will deliver on the free movement regime, current and future. Ms. Brooks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. My name is Joanne Brooks. I'm head of the CSME unit at the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and the CSME focal point for Trinidad and Tobago. I want to begin by thanking the THA for this engagement with the private sector. It is very rare, and it is a rare occasion when we have such a high-level visit from the CARICOM Secretariat to discuss the CSME and how we can accelerate implementation, which will largely benefit the private sector and redound to the benefit of our economy and our peoples. In fact, I was told that the last time the CARICOM Secretariat visited Tobago was in 2015, something we undertake in the future to remedy. As you are aware, the CARICOM Single Market and Economy came into effect with the signing of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas in 2001. It is an arrangement between 14 member states to deepen the economic integration of the region by liberating the movement of capital, goods, services, and skills, which is widely believed to be essential to economic growth. As time is limited, I will focus on the free movement regime, which is a structure of orderly migration that promotes labor mobility across the region by allowing skills to flow where they are needed, which I suspect would be of interest to every business person in this room. I will also touch on the right of establishment and the right to provide a service, two regimes which allow businesses and professionals who engage in non-wage earning economic activity in the private sector to establish themselves in any participating member state and to bring with them their senior managerial, supervisory, and technical staff. These two frameworks not only empower our business community and workforce, but also enhance competitiveness across sectors where skills can be matched with industry needs. I will now show a short film which will provide information regarding the freedom of movement in its present incarnation, particularly relating to the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago, but is equally beneficial to any privately run sector. To end, I will close with some horizon scanning and highlight developments in work done by the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and stakeholder ministries after the announcement of heads at the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas that a decision was made to implement full and free movement across the region, which was envisaged way back in 1973 by the founding fathers, that of unification of the Caribbean. We'll now have the video presentation.
This is Trinidad and Tobago's story on how we have become committed advocates for the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, and in particular the free movement regime within the CARICOM region. The CSME is an essential element of Caribbean regional integration. The free movement of skilled workers, in particular, remove barriers to labor market access within the region by allowing talent to flow where it is needed, which is a key factor for economic growth. Nationals can now leverage their skills and experience in a competitive regional market of 14 member states beyond national border limitations. The current regime allows for the free movement of skills in the following 12 categories: university graduates, artistes, musicians, sports persons, media workers, nurses, teachers, artisans with a Caribbean vocational qualification, holders of associate degrees, household domestics with a Caribbean vocational qualification, security guards, and agricultural workers. Trinidad and Tobago has legislated to allow for the movement in all 12 categories, ensuring that our citizens at all levels have the opportunity to benefit from work mobility across the region, enhancing opportunities for the private sector, youth, women, and entrepreneurs. In fact, data showing the percentage of women seeking opportunities within the region through the CSME nearly equals that of men. On average, women account for 48% of applicants and men account for 52% of applicants. Trinidad and Tobago has become a leader in the implementation of the free movement regime within the region through the modernization and digitization of its services across the board, including the CSME e-application platform. Our nationals can now apply for a CSME skills certificate from the comfort of their homes, wherever they are in the world. QR codes, virtual consultations, and AI chatbots facilitate real-time connectivity with the nationals and members in the diaspora wanting to return to the region to live and work. Trinidad and Tobago has undoubtedly benefited from the free movement regime, which is evidenced by the number of nationals holding skills certificates, especially in the petrochemical sector, where we have a comparative advantage in the region. Due to our high tertiary level qualifications and technical level skills in the sector, our expertise has been in demand globally, and more recently, closer to home in Guyana and Suriname. Through the CSME Skills Certificate, our nationals have been able to fill knowledge and technical gaps in the energy sector. During and after the pandemic, the CSME unit saw a precipitous rise in outflow in this particular sector, which increased from approximately 30% to 60%. Under the rights of establishment and the right to provide a service, nationals can benefit from the right to establish a business in another member state or expand an existing business. This empowers young entrepreneurs by giving them greater market access, resources, and partnerships, fostering a more dynamic and competitive regional market.
My name is Kevin Scott. I received my CSME certificate earlier this year in February. The process was very easy and smooth. I appreciate the efficiency of the organization. It has helped me in the oil and gas sector to be able to travel with ease throughout the Caribbean, and it's made my immigration process very smooth.
As you have witnessed, there are many benefits under the free movement regime. There is no restriction on leaving and entering the host country. Nationals can live and work indefinitely in another member state with their spouse and dependents. Nationals can work in any member state without the need for a work permit. Nationals and your dependents can access basic health care and education in the receiving state. And nationals can access property and land for the use of your business. These rights and benefits are guaranteed to enhance the quality of life for our nationals, boost our social well-being, deepen the integration of the Caribbean region, and contribute to our joint economic prosperity.
Thank you for your attention. As the presentation showed, the current system works in getting our skilled and unskilled nationals to move within the region to apply their knowledge where it is needed. Finally, I want to speak to the changes that are carded to take place in 2025, which will greatly impact the way we live and work. As I said earlier, in July 2023, heads of government at the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas announced the decision to implement full and free movement, not just of skills, but of persons within the region. The free movement of persons will be a paradigm shift in the way our nationals access employment, expand business partnerships, and create entrepreneurial opportunities, and also how they will invest in the region. In fact, the EU reported a 20% increase in productivity attributed directly to the free movement of workers, while the OECS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, has experienced enhanced regional economic and functional cooperation, which has encouraged economic resilience. The CARICOM free movement of persons will bring into reality the vision of our founding fathers of the Caribbean community to integrate the region into a vibrant, resilient, and prosperous community of nations. At the national level, the process began with stakeholder consultations. We did a lot of that with all of the business community, civil society, all across ministries, and our engagement with Tobago will take place during the first quarter of 2025. We also set up a domestic legislative drafting committee, an interministerial committee of 20 senior lawyers, which includes a senior counsel from the Tobago House of Assembly, and we have reviewed up to 60 pieces of legislation to remove barriers to free movement. As we advance towards a more integrated region, let us leverage these frameworks to ensure that our talents find opportunities, ultimately driving our region's economy and energy and other sectors forward. The private sector stands to gain tremendously from the removal of further barriers to the movement of labor, and I urge you to support the implementation of full and free movement in order to deepen our socio-economic integration of the region. In closing, I leave with you a quote which states, "There is no real integration without free movement. Free movement is not merely a right, it is a pathway to shared prosperity and collective progress." I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks, for your informative presentation. Now, this forum is a platform for open dialogue and strategic partnerships, as your insights are essential in maximizing regional economic benefits for Tobago's businesses and industries. As of such, we will now open the floor for the question and answer segment. We are live on the Facebook pages of the Office of the Chief Secretary and the Tobago Updates, so we are kindly asking that you stand if you have a question to pose and you state your name before asking the question. A microphone will be brought to you, and of course, our presenters are here to respond directly. Don't all rush to ask the first question.
Good evening to all. My name is Ricardo Alfred. Today I will just speak in two hats. So one, I am a marine engineer, maritime surveyor, and a couple other things. But I also have stood as chairman of a company called TATCO. So just to go right into it, we have a vessel currently. It holds about maybe 25,000 pounds of refrigerated cargo. We currently go to St. Vincent to get things like bait, and we currently do some small business with them. The challenge that we have is that there's a lot of barrier regarding your customs and stuff like that, right, in terms of fees and that type of thing. We have to go to St. Vincent because the longline industry is regulated, and St. Vincent have a very good catch for bait. They have a very good industry across there. Trinidad doesn't have any. I do not wish the vessel to go there empty. As I said, it's 25,000 pounds. We go there empty to get bait and then go out on the fishing grounds. If there can be a medium where we can carry some goods, because we currently have some poultry program in which a lot of these CARICOM countries have a very high import market to some of these goods. So if an agreement can be made in terms of we carrying across some of these products from Tobago, definitely can be sold across there. We just have to work out prices and stuff like that, but just keep in mind is 25,000 pounds as relates to refrigerated cargo. The vessel has all of its certification. Being as a surveyor, I'm able to ensure that they have all of the certification for international travel, right? The other thing is that, it's another phone, yes. The other thing I want to stress on, so currently Trinidad and Tobago is red carded as relates to the Atlantic tuna, right? One of our major US income is that we export the fish to the US. I know for a fact that very soon the US will put a ban on us. Currently we can't export to Europe. And very soon, yes, so the EU has a ban on us. And the US being signatory to that convention very soon. Well, I can't speak on port state. I mean, there's a whole list of things as relates to unregulated, unregistered vessels that Trinidad and Tobago is very behind on, but that's a whole long story. But so we are currently red carded. So the aim is to create a CARICOM supply chain or a CARICOM medium again that we could definitely have to export the fish if that ban comes, so that we will definitely have some foreign currency coming in. Now I'm going to be speaking, I hope it making note. Let's have a long list here, right? So I'm speaking on behalf of a company that I own, which offers training as relates to I mean, I have a school that offers maritime training. We do a lot of online training as well. It's the only school in Trinidad and Tobago that offers online training. It's the only marine approved school that is anyway. Right, so I currently do a lot of training across there, and I realize there's a lot of training that is needed by some of these CARICOM countries. I was engaged by St. Vincent and some other countries to do some training for them. The challenge that they have is that when engaging these things, they want us to go through some of these foreign affairs things, which is a challenge because some of them may not understand this type of training, you know. And then funding. So if we are looking at the CARICOM countries, I mean, I'm not sure if the CARICOM has some sort of funding as relates to some of these businesses doing work or whatever, you know. But if there's some funding through CARICOM, through businesses, you know, that would be great as well, because I heard them mention about setting up businesses in these countries, right? So some kind of funding and credit. I mean, somebody said credit somewhere. I'm not sure who that was, but it's something to have a conversation about. And then lastly, I do own some Airbnbs and some apartments. So I am looking at this, what you call it? You know, you have Airbnb and Booking.com, which I think it's very challenging. So I would say if they could create another medium through CARICOM where you could have some of these CARICOM nationals, instead of going to the hotels where you have a list that vetted through whatever matrix the CARICOM might choose to create, so that persons like myself can have access to some of your residents there in terms of that type of business, right? So, and again, the first part with the vessel I want it to be used as a training vessel for the CARICOM, right? It's the only one of the largest government-owned vessels that meet all the international standards. It's very perfect for training as well, that we could definitely build some capacity among the CARICOM states, right? So that's that there.
That is a complex issue, some of which relates to the CSME, but much of it is beyond that. The first issue you raise regarding IUU and red flagging is not strictly a CARICOM issue. The EU has implemented a red card system. And of course, the red card system for fishing, IUU fishing, which is illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing, that's what the term means, is similar to what happens to our financial sector with blacklisting, where a determination is made in the European Union that certain conduct is unacceptable to them. It's not about whether it's acceptable to us, whether to the government of Trinidad and Tobago or not. It's based on the standards they apply. It would seem to me that this is something you may want to take up with your national fisheries authorities. One, in terms of whether the I'm getting feedback, sorry. Whether, in fact, this is something that that your maritime authorities and your fisheries authorities in Trinidad and Tobago can address. With respect to the cargo, this is really a commercial opportunity. Right now, a conversation, as Leo mentioned, is taking place on enhancing transport connectivity within the region for goods and for people. So it would be important to have that conversation nationally as well about the capabilities you bring with your vessel and the ability to transport. I don't know on the matter of entry, if you're taking things to St. Vincent, then you need to be clear on what the access would be. On the other matters, which are primarily commercial, including the Airbnb, I don't know that we ourselves would be able to address those. Thank you.
So before we continue to take more in-person questions, we have a question from Ms. Heidi Eastman, who is viewing live. She asks, is there an expiration date for CSME certificates? If so, what is the process to renew?
Thank you for that question. When you receive a CSME skills certificate, it is for life. The only reason you would have to return to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs is if that certificate was lost or stolen, mutilated, or you wanted to change your profession. You did additional training and you wanted to change your profession. Or if, Brittany, where are you? Yes, or if you got married and you had a name change. Yes, I have my CSME specialist with me from the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, and so she knows she has all the answers. But of course, it is for life, and so it's very rare that you need to engage with us after that.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. So this announcement is for those viewing or live. If you have a question to pose, you can type it in the comment section, and I will pose the question on your behalf. So we return to in-person questions. Do we have any more questions? Yeah?
Good afternoon. My name is Clement Williams. I am a photographer, journalist, and author of my CSME, right? But I'm asking a question concerning CARICOM nationals, which I deal a lot with. There are some coming to Trinidad and Tobago who may be geriatric nurses from Jamaica or Guyana or Grenada. The agriculture workers coming in, and they may come for holiday and see opportunities and like to apply for CSME. But one person, when they applied, they were told that they cannot apply for it because the stamp by immigration marks vacation. Right? So I'm asking the question, if one comes to Trinidad and Tobago, the most difficult country to get an entry in with immigration, I can tell you that. Because I was not born Trinidadian, I'm Guyanese born. And I know the situation with coming to Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm asking the question, if someone comes to Trinidad and Tobago from a CARICOM country on vacation, sees the opportunity of getting a job and is qualified, what should they do? Return to their country and come again?
All right, so there is, if that happened to you or anyone you knew, that was very unfortunate. Because the fact is that we process applications for CSME skills certificates, not only from Trinidad and Tobago nationals, but for any members, a national from any member state. And we also have a facility in Trinidad and Tobago which they do not enjoy in other member states, in that our application process is free. So we are very much very welcoming in that aspect, that once you're here and there is an opportunity that you seek in any one of the 12 categories, you can apply for CSME skills certificate from the comfort of your home, because the process is now digitized. You can, if you need information, you can go online, make an appointment, and we will call you in your, wherever you are. Also, you can ask for consultation, and we will send a link to you. So you can also upload your documents to us. We will check it for you, so that when you apply online, the process is very seamless. Our digital platform also allows for you to check the process of your application like you would check an Amazon package, which I'm sure everyone knows about. So when you apply, you will be informed that your application has been accepted. When the application goes through the committee process and then the signature process, and finally, when your application is approved by the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, who is the competent authority, you will be notified and you can collect your CSME certificate. Also, during the process, if you get employment and your employer wants you to start immediately, but you don't have your CSME skill certificate, online you can request a letter of comfort, which I will sign. The letter will come back to you digitally. You download it and take it to your employer. Go ahead.
At present, I did assisted two Jamaicans in getting the CSME, right? They were successful online. I tried to assist one in getting another one to get it, but they were told that because the entry stamp marks occasion, they were not able to apply for it.
That is also not true, because a national from a member state gets 6 months automatically. That does not impinge on the application process at all. Now, there's a situation that I commonly see where people try to regularize their status by applying for CSME skill certificates. So previously, they were illegally in the country, and immigration, if they go to immigration, immigration would advise that you leave the country, return, have yours, so that you are legally in the country, because every CARICOM national gets 6 months, and then you apply for your skill certificate. So there's a process, but it's not a process to regulate illegal immigrants, I'm afraid. 4 months before the expiry date of their passport? The stamp. We get that quite a lot, and if you go to immigration and get an appointment, then even though your appointment may be 2 months down the line, once you have made the appointment, you can have your, the committee will review your application. Any more questions?
Hi, good evening. Right, based on the example that you would have just raised, that if you come and then your employer wants you to start working immediately, right? If you don't have any family member or anyone that you could stay by in that particular country, for most of us, we know that Caribbean, these rentals are extremely expensive, and I have to rent. Is there anything in place where fees are being waived? Well, not waived, but you get it at lower rates, or you just have to pay normal rates to rent houses or anything like the ordinary citizens?
That's right, because it's a system where, you know, it's based on national treatment. So therefore, if our nationals have to go through that process, then there's no special treatment for a non-national. Any other questions? Yes, and that's important as well. In going to another member state to seek employment or to take up employment, it's really important, well, those going to seek employment, it's important that you're not a ward on the state or a charge on the state, that you have your finances in order, so that if it takes 6 months to find a job, then you can maintain yourself for that period of time.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've heard a lot about the CSM. I have not heard about the E. I'm hoping to hear more about the E. We've been talking about, you said you called a lot of years, 1976, 1998, 2001, I know of 2006, and here we are in 2025. How close are we to a single market and economy with the E? Because the single currency, we haven't heard anything about it. What is happening? I mean, the entire Africa is now moving towards a single currency. We have a model in the Eastern Caribbean in terms of the Eastern Caribbean dollar. What is the problem?
Every member state has their own currency, except the member states in the OECS. And the work has been done through the body called the Body of Central Bank Governors, spearheading work to see how, given the different stages of economic development of the member states and the economic structures, you have had at some time some countries which are highly indebted, some countries have floating exchange rates, some have fixed exchange rates. So the heads of government, recognizing that there is such variability in the state of the economies, the macroeconomic structure of those economies, have not put this as a low-hanging fruit for trying to achieve. What is being done, though, is seeking to utilize an existing or model a system which is currently used in Africa, a payments clearing system to allow for encouraging intra-regional trade and allow buyers and sellers, participants in the market, to be paid easily. Because we have differing exchange control regimes in some instances and currencies, we have, and some member states have, foreign exchange controls, some do not have. We have encountered the difficulty sometimes of settling payments, having traded among ourselves. So the approach is to utilize the model that has been developed and used across Africa as a clearinghouse, a payment system or clearing facility, to treat with our current system with respect to payment settlement for trade among ourselves. The deeper question of a single currency, I'm afraid, would require a bit more effort, and it's about prioritizing what we can achieve now vis-a-vis what we would like to achieve. I think that's where I have to stop there on that particular one at this time. However, there is work being done to harmonize a number of elements in the macroeconomic environment. For instance, work is being done with respect to our fiscal incentive regime, our double taxation regime, elements that impact the private sector in terms of establishing businesses, paying their taxes. Work is being done in coordinating our approach when being dealt with by parties external to us with respect to our taxation policies. And here I speak frankly with respect to matters of how the OECD approaches us with respect to the beneficial ownership structure and our reporting structures for companies. And this is an area that we're trying to coordinate our work, our approach to treating, so that one member state's companies legislation, which may require certain levels of declaration in another member state that might differ. So when it comes to recognizing companies, mutual recognition of companies, this poses a particular challenge. So we're seeking to work along those areas that are, I call them low-hanging fruit, because they are more reachable, to facilitate that. But the single currency aspect is still a matter that is a bit on the horizon. Yes. Yes.
Good evening. Let me say how grateful I am.
Speak into it. Speak into it.
Yes, good evening. Let me say how grateful I am to see the CARICOM Secretariat here in Tobago. Let me express gratitude on behalf of all the business people here to have you here in Tobago. I have some understanding of some of what is being said here this evening, but my question really is, the last time you were here, as I heard, was 10 years ago, 2015. I would hope that we would see you much more often than every 10 years or so. In fact, my thinking is that and as a Tobagonian, we happen to operate on the periphery, and we need to have some sort of mechanism where we can access. I don't know, in the world of today, there must be some way that we can do that easily. We survived COVID, and if we can survive COVID, I am sure we can have access to the CARICOM Secretariat and all the facilities and mechanisms that they have to disperse whatever benefits they have. So maybe you can tell us what is possible or what you can think of that would assist us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. But just to be a little more specific, since you have the microphone, when you say benefits,
Well,
just give sir.
we've been hearing a lot of questions how we can access certain things. Maybe we don't need to get a delegation come to Tobago to tell us. We can maybe see a website or something, or have some access where we can answer some of these questions for ourselves. And I'm sure there are lots of, the question about the economy in terms of the single market is something I know that that a lot of work have been done already, and your presentation addressed that. We have that information. If we can access it, we can know a lot more about the Secretariat, CARICOM Secretariat, and so on.
Thank you very much. Very clear now. So you can approach that on two levels immediately. You have your CSME focal point in Trinidad and Tobago, the office of the CSME focal point, the office of the ambassador to CARICOM. These are present on Trinidad and Tobago, there to serve you. I know they have an active website with information on it. So that's at the domestic level. At the regional level, we have information online on caricom.org. And we're actually in the process of developing that website as we speak, with some support and assistance from the European Union to make the website more user-friendly, to take you clearly to matters on the CSME and what it is about. So exactly what you're saying, this is being addressed right now. We have on the website information as we speak on how to the right of establishment, competition policy, all those areas that there is information there right now, but we're seeking to modernize how it is presented to you for the consultancy that is being done. So there is local access and there is regional access for online systems. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Curtis Diach is the name. I wanted to get a sense of, from our representative, the Trinidad and Tobago ambassador, what is the data telling us in terms of movement of Trinidad and Tobago citizens to the other parts of the Caribbean? Because I know that we are existing for more than 10 years now, or just around 10 years, and I just wanted to have a sense of where our people, which countries they are moving to, and how many of them over the 10-year period, where have they been? Are you tracking the movement of our people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and a very good question. When we took the decision to modernize the CSME unit, before that, everything was paper-based. There were large files and sitting in a dusty room, so it was very hard to collect data. The first thing we did was build a platform that would collect data and disaggregate it. So, and of course, that system was accelerated when we digitized. So now the digital platform we have, produces records and that we can use to analyze, like you said, tracking movement. So for example, we launched a digital application in April. So between April and now, we've had 3,000 people, I think 3,100 people register on the system. That's a very short time for so many people to register on the system. We have processed, of those registered, we have processed maybe half of those as completed applications. You know, sometimes people will apply, but then they stop, or they have to collect documents or things like that. We can track where our nationals are going through the verification process. So when you get a skill certificate and say you go to Jamaica to work, your employer in Jamaica or immigration will write to the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and ask for us to verify that that the skills certificate is not fraudulent. So we collect that data so that we know where our nationals are going. I can tell you that of all the member states, we are the most active throughout the region. So there are more skills certificates produced for Trinidad and Tobago nationals than there are in any other member state. That's a fact. So our nationals are traveling and accepting employment in many member states around the region. And one of the indices of that is that we are highly skilled and highly educated. We have free tertiary education. So we fill a lot of skills gaps in other member states. And then, of course, skills will go where they're needed. So we've seen that persons come into Trinidad, some are on the executive level, but we see domestic workers, security guards, we see agricultural workers. Since we approved that sector, we see a lot of people moving in that sector, and it sort of corroborates with our push to diversify our economy and resuscitate some of our cocoa plantations and things like that. I know some of our technical people as well go to Guyana to work in the mega farms, and the most movement that I have seen of Trinidad and Tobago nationals is to Guyana and Suriname to work in the oil sector where we have a comparative advantage. We have been exporting talent and skills in that sector throughout the world. Saudi Arabia, Oman, in Africa, in Ghana, all over the world. So yes, we are very interested to see where our nationals are going, and so you get an idea of where there are gaps in the region. Oh, definitely. Yes, and yes.
We want to ensure the live audience is hearing and benefiting.
Thank you very much. No, I know time is limited. I have 25 questions here, but I cannot ask all of them. But I just wanted, maybe I could email you the others. But no, seriously, I did a study some years ago and I recognized, but the question I was asking, the second part of it, because there's a 4-part question to that, which you did very well giving me. What about those aren't captured on your database? Would the foreign country that they are working and living in send that information? Do you request it? How often it is done? And that kind of, oh my gosh, so many questions.
That's a good thing.
Thank you. And we have been doing slightly better in capturing data over the last few years. It is not 10 years that the CSME is in place. The skills regime really started in the late 90s, in 1996. Even though member states put the institutional arrangements in place in the 2000s, the first legislation was adopted in 1996, 1997. So we have the data to suggest that between 1996 and now, around 25,000 persons applied for a skills certificate. Now, that doesn't necessarily tell us that those persons would have used the skills certificate. I have a skills certificate and I never used it. Gladys has a skills certificate and she never used it. So there are persons that are applying but not necessarily using it. It also doesn't tell us if it is really 25,000 persons that would have applied, since some member states were issuing a second skills certificate. So we have some double counting, and in some instances, maybe even 3. I have a friend who has, I think, 4 skills certificates, because at that point in time, member states were issuing instead of just verifying the skills certificate. But we have to be mindful that there's still movement under the work permit regime. So the movement under the skills certificate, under the skills regime isn't the full story in terms of persons moving. There is movement under the work permit, which is highly managed by member states, because that is basically the regime where member states can decide on whether they are allowing a person to enter the labor market, and they could say yes or no, based on whether there's local labor available for that particular position. So the data is coming in. We have a template, and we do require member states to submit the data. It's slightly poor, and there are gaps in the data. What the data was telling us when we did a study about 2-3 years ago, an analysis, is that Guyana, at that point in time, Guyana and Jamaica were the biggest sending countries, and Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and I think Antigua and Barbuda were the biggest receiving countries. And some of the data could be substantiated by way of looking at the verification numbers, as well as the persons that are applying in a member state, which is not their member state, because you could apply in Trinidad and Tobago without being a national of Trinidad and Tobago. We also have data on the facilitation of travel, which is the bigger regime under which CARICOM nationals can enter a member state and receive 6 months. They do not have the right to work under that regime. And that is basically in line, the data under that particular regime is in line with the data under the skills regime, where both Barbados, Trinidad, and Antigua and Barbuda were the biggest receiving countries. Let's be careful again with that data, because that also includes in-transit data. Recently, we have seen a move towards Guyana. A lot of persons are moving into Guyana because of the developments in Guyana. We recognize that we need to do better in terms of data capture, because it is hard to manage if you can't measure. So we have in place a template where member states have to submit the data. And we're also doing some work in terms of establishing a labor market information system. And that system is not only to capture data in terms of movement, application of skilled certificates, but it's also supposed to tell us where are the gaps in the particular labor markets in member states. And that is supposed to be a very valuable system in terms of advising member states where they need to place the focus on in terms of training, and where to fill those gaps in the labor market. So there is some information, it's not perfect, there are gaps, and so this is a call on member states to ensure that they supply the data to us so that we could do the necessary reporting and assessments. There is a study that we're currently working on, which is part of work that we're doing in developing a regional migration policy, and the focus of our units is in ensuring that we look at the labor market dimension of that. So currently we have a consultant in the field who's doing work with member states and being able to identify what is the movement like, what type of movement is happening, what are the sectors that persons are moving into, and what are the gaps in some of the member states. So hopefully sometime in May of this year, we will get that assessment from the consultant, and that would be very valuable information in terms of informing member states on where to move next.
So ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraints, we can only take one more question. Mr. Whitfield Turner, he had a question to ask, so we're going to allow him to ask the last question.
It's actually a question and a comment. The question is, has consideration been given towards facilitating and I don't know whether it would be through the CARICOM ambassador or through the focal point and the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, to facilitate the renewal of passports for CARICOM nationals resident in another CARICOM territory without having to actually return to their original jurisdiction. I think that would be a big help for persons who might be from one place, but they are resident in another territory. So I don't know if consideration can be given to that. And also to answer Dr. McCook's question, which Marie partly answered, the E in the CSME. I think it goes without saying that there are benefits to be derived from that. And I'm particularly speaking to the issue of a single currency. We have a living example already in terms of the Eastern Caribbean dollar. It's under a robust regime. It is a very stable currency. My recommendation would be that that regime be kept and we simply rename it and adopt it as the official CARICOM currency throughout member states. Each individual territory will be free to keep their own currency if they choose, but that will be the official CARICOM currency. That will do a number of things, among them, one, it boosts the freedom of movement because now you don't have to worry about exchange rates and going to buy Forex when you have to go from one place to the other. And of course, the ease of doing business where you don't have to buy US in order to trade with another CARICOM country, which is another bugbear for me, but we're not going there today. But definitely, I think we should look in that direction. So beyond the example that we're borrowing from Africa right now, if we can go further and adopt the EC currency, keep the same regiment that it's on because it has worked in the past, make it the official CARICOM currency, and definitely that will help us. And of course, as the question was earlier, whether we have given consideration to creating the facility for passport renewals in member states for permanent residents of other CARICOM member states.
So we're just going to take 2 more questions. These ladies signaled to ask questions before the announcement was made, so we're just going to allow you to ask your 2 short questions.
All right, good evening, everyone, dignitaries. My name is Candice Nichols. It's pertaining to, as someone was talking about the Guyanese national, based on the certification, can they apply from their country before they come here, or do they have to be here to apply? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jewel Green, and I'm here wearing a few hats this afternoon. And I have a few questions, but they're short, as I said. So as the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Writers Guild, we have a number of authors who would like to be able to travel between the different Caribbean islands and to be able to get a skill certificate with that skill that they have. And we would love if that could be a consideration of the team that's here today. As well, the customs and excise that's attached to exporting books, moving books between the islands, it's quite high and a limiting factor in how authors are able to do reprints and to restock, and we really would love if that is something that can be looked at, the customs and excise between the different islands. And also, as a winemaker, I'm a local winemaker, and we have some issues with the regularization of the standardization of the market in terms of being licensed. So under the current system, you are unable as a local winemaker to get a alcohol license, as they call it. So what we're looking at is there another provision for local winemakers to be able to be licensed and therefore to be able to export? So those are the few things I have here. The only last thing is the cost of travel between the islands. It's quite high. It is a limiting factor to people being able to travel frequently. We go and we stay, but we also want to be able to come back and forth, staycations, etc.
Thank you very much. You had 3 questions. We were trying to research quickly one of the questions, whether an author would fall under any one of the existing categories of skilled nationals. It all depends. If the author is already a university graduate or an associate degree holder, then that person would automatically qualify in and of them the right in that category. But the category author, I think legal counsel is giving us some advice.
Just, I may have missed a part of it. Is it that the author just wants to go to another country temporarily on to speak on the, like maybe the book tour or what have you? Or is it that they are seeking to move permanently? Right. It wouldn't necessarily cover them at this moment, but certainly as a service provider, yes, in terms of a temporary service provider, depending on how, you know, in terms of going and maybe speaking poetry readings, opening like a book tour kind of thing, that for sure would be able to fall under temporary service provider. If they go and somehow start off as a self-employed in terms of as an author, because you're not necessarily, I don't know, when you talk about seeking opportunities, they're not necessarily working for someone. Right, so they're self-published. So then under establishment as well, they should be able to take advantage of those regimes that currently exist. So that is the way in which I would say that, as well as when we do move to full free movement, then certainly those countries that are participating in the enhanced cooperation for full free movement, they should be able to take advantage. In relation to the books, I don't know that the books and the taxes and what have you, those are published in the region or they're brought in from outside. I don't know if they'd meet the rules of origin. In which country? I don't know, in some countries they may be. So, well, Bernard, sorry, no, sorry, I will repeat. The issue is in terms of books that may be printed in one country in the CARICOM region being exported to another country in CARICOM region, and that I'm going to speak, Bernard will speak to that. And the third issue was the winemakers and the liquor license, and I'm not qualified to speak to that. That's, I think, yeah.
Okay, I'll take the second one first. When it comes to licenses relating to transformation of chemicals to make alcoholic drinks, whether it's beer, wine, or spirits, the customs authority in the country normally monitors that under the excise regime. So if you can give some more information. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One second.
Yes, so they currently do have a license that is issued to persons who want an alcohol license. But as a winemaker, the definition of wine is that you're making it from grapes, and that's the only thing that's covered. So as a local winemaker who is making wine from seeds and leaves and flowers and all of these things, roots, we don't have that coverage because we're not under that definition and therefore cannot be issued that license and therefore can't export.
Okay, I think that is for I suspect that those from the government have taken note and will address that going forward.
No, but even if the process you described is limited or restricted to a particular category, the fact that it contains alcohol makes it a light product. So the customs will still have some jurisdiction over that. They said no. Hold on.
I think you're raising a classification issue. And if wine is defined as a product from grapes, then you'd probably need to see what is the classification of the formulation that you have. And it would need to be treated in its proper classification. No, it's not about the process, because the product would be based on its inputs as well. So if the input is grapes, to be defined as wine, and this is so recognized in Trinidad and Tobago's classification system, then I think you'd need to discuss it within that context to see what proper classification would be applied to your product and what treatment it would get on that basis.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a response to the question that was posed by Mr. Turner on the issue of passports. Passports, that is a national issue. So if you live in another country and you need to renew your passport, if your country, if it doesn't have some kind of e-government application where you can apply online and it can be mailed to you, I recognize it's going to be particularly difficult, but it's not the responsibility of the host government or the country in which you live to facilitate the processing for the renewal of your passport.
So ladies and gentlemen, we have to end the question and answer segment here. I'm sure that there is a link to Ms. Brooks' unit, as she's the head of the CSME unit at the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. An email should be on the link that you can send your questions to, and your answers will be provided. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand over to Ms. Anne-Marie Degazon, Policy Development Director at the Office of the Chief Secretary, to present tokens of appreciation to our dignitaries, courtesy the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols of the day observed at this very last hour that we have our guests with us. We do want to, in fact, on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly and the organizing team who worked very hard to ensure that we have these moments with you, we want to say thank you. And even as I speak, to express those thanks, we have our officers from our Tourism Development Agency will share a special token of our thanks to you. We understand that Mr. Turner, I would ask you to kindly pause a minute and allow our guests to receive our gratitude from Tobago. I want to encourage you, even as they depart, that you may have a moment to obtain the contact information or be directed to where you can get your answers responded to adequately. Is that okay? Nice. So, as I was saying, many things went into making this day possible. We do recognize Ms. Brooks, your team needs to be present in Tobago a little bit more often. And this is my personal recommendation, that it's about time we have a CARICOM desk in Tobago. Yes, it's agreed, unanimously agreed. And so I'm sure that the conversations can begin to initiate such an action so that our residents here in Tobago can have the benefit of an ongoing conversation and dialogue, and we can begin to see some movements across the Caribbean and not just into Tobago, not only of our personnel but also our products and the things that we are known for in Tobago. So again, I don't want to delay because we do have other steps. Persons who are here, this has been a tremendous day. We started this morning with meetings with the House of Assembly. We had meetings and engaging with the students of our secondary schools. And finally, we had this opportunity to engage with you. I hope you do understand. But there is an important stopover that we need to do before our guests depart from Tobago. And we want to ensure that they have that. As you are aware, Tobago has the longest standing legislature, I think, in our part of this hemisphere. Am I correct? That's right. We have a lot to be proud of. We are the founding fathers of this CSME movement. We have a lot. These are my words. Whether it's corrected, validated, but I'm claiming it. Tobago, we have a lot to be proud of, and I'm saying that it's about that we stand with that pride and, you know, understand the power that we have in taking this movement forward. So thanks to our guests who attended this evening. Thank you to our media personnel who will carry the word a little bit further. Thank you to our CARICOM delegates who joined us here for a lovely day in Tobago. We do bid you farewell and wish that you will join us again very soon. Do you want us to? Okay, we'll come up. They'll just pass them out here.
If you could see.
Okay, so they're insisting as we pass out. So we have Ms. Joanne Brooks, head of the CSME unit, Ms. Brittany Peters, CSME specialist, Mr. Damani Modest, our research assistant, Ms. Karen Israel, our communication officer, Ms. Rhea Ward, social media handler, Ambassador Marchand, Ambassador to CARICOM, Ms. Camille Dillon, Legal Officer 3. We have His Excellency Assistant Secretary General. We have a special token for you too. Ms. Wanya Isles, Deputy Program Manager, Free Movement and Labor. Mr. Leo Preville, Director Csme. Mr. Walton Hamilton, Specialist Communication, and Ms. Gladys Young, our Assistant General Counsel. Thank you very much for sharing the day with us.
I'll take a picture.
Oh, and I forgot Mr. Bernard Black, Senior Project Officer. Forgive me. Okay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, do have a good evening.